What would happen if you could take the Empire State Building, turn it into something between Las Vegas and a seaside resort, put the population of a small town on it, and send it on a road trip? Provided you can find an extra $1.5 billion in your wallet, you'll get a real symphony. In early April 2018, Symphony of the Seas, the cruise ship that was the apogee of the shipbuilding and travel industry, and the senior liner of the already legendary Oasis family, put to sea. In the mid-2000s, Royal Caribbean International, one of the world's largest cruise operators, decided that their Freedom-class cruise ships were small and boring. They decided to create a new generation of ships that would be unrivaled in every way. The biggest, the roomiest, the most luxurious, the project was audacious but interesting. A whole series of huge liners called Oasis was developed. The leap was impressive. The new ships were to be almost 9 meters wider than their predecessors, and their total internal volume jumped by almost half. The first Oasis-class ship was the Oasis of the Seas, which went to sea with pomp at the end of 2009 and showed amazing results. There was simply nothing in the world to compare it with. Royal Caribbean, of course, seeing the success of its brainchild, continued the development of the family. A year later, the second liner Allure of the Seas went to sea. A few years later, in 2016, Harmony of the Seas began to take tourists for a ride. And now, in April 2018, our current hero and the fourth brother of the family was born, the liner Symphony of the Seas. Symphony was built over 3 years at the STX France shipyard in Saint-Nazaire, France, where Harmony was also built. The first two ships, Oasis and Allure, were built at the STX shipyard in Turku, Finland. Construction of such ships, as you understand, is a very expensive pleasure. When asked by journalists how much such a ship costs, the president of Royal Caribbean, Richard Fine, said that their gratitude to the builders was quite decent. They said thank you about 1 billion times, and each such thank you cost about €1. At a rough estimate, their gratitude was valued at $1.35 billion. But what the shipbuilders gave the customer for that money was worth it. Symphony of the Seas is 362 meters long. It is almost the height of the Empire State Building Skyscraper in New York. And while the length of this floating city can be compared to a skyscraper, its height can also be compared to very tall buildings. With a total height of 72.5 meters standing on a city street, it would quietly shame a 20-story house standing next to it. At the same time, thanks to a very large width, underwater is only 9 meters of this height, the liner seems to glide on the water. The ship is huge, with a displacement of 228,000 registered tons. Is that a lot or a little? 228,000 tons is almost 5 Titanics. Figure it out for yourself. All this is powered by 6 giant diesel generators, with a capacity of 19 to 26,000 horsepower. The liner is propelled by 3 huge propellers installed in special iPods outside the ship's hull. This design can rotate, changing the thrust vector of the propellers and simplifying control. Also in the hull, on the sides, there are some more small engines which allow the giant to easily navigate in small harbors of numerous coastal towns where tourists will go out. The ship can take on board almost 6,700 people, most of whom, of course, are travelers. But the high level of service requires a lot of personnel, so the number of crew is about 2,200 people, about the same number of people were on the Titanic. Now it's just the crew, although it's worth noting that this number is already almost the norm for cruise ships. Now, someone is bound to say that it is bad luck to compare the ship with the Titanic. There's nothing to worry about. The ship is packed with a huge number of safety features, and you'd have to be an incompetent lunatic to sink it. But as Warren Buffett used to say, buy companies that can be run by a fool in case a fool shows up. There are 18 lifeboats on the ship. The lifeboats have grown quite a bit since 1912, and 18 of these are quite capable of taking everyone aboard. The 5,518 tourists will have at their disposal 2759 rooms, most of which have balconies with access to the sea or to the huge inner promenade. In this area, landscaped with about 12,000 different plants, there are a huge number of entertainment venues, playgrounds, stores and cafes, among which somewhere hidden Jamie Oliver's new restaurant. There are several bonuses already familiar to the guests of the liner family, including high-speed internet in the middle of the ocean, which works all over the ship, and also a rather daring and fashionable nowadays solution, a big bar without bartenders. Instead, there are robots there to make any drink you want. But alas, they will not be able to listen to your heartfelt outpourings over a glass. Or they can, but don't expect any further advice from them. I don't see the point in describing most of the ship's establishments in detail. Many of them are already standard for cruise liners, and it would take about 10 minutes to list their names. There is anything from coffee shops and children's surfing schools to luxury restaurants and Broadway musicals. Let's just say that the entertainment program took almost as much time to develop as the liner, and grocery shopping began 2 months before the first sailing. Vacation was such a miracle is not to say that the budget, but not prohibitively expensive. The cheapest tours for 4 days will cost about $1,000 per person, and the most expensive 12-day voyage from Barcelona across the Atlantic to Florida will cost about $10,000. But such a trip, as well as in general a cruise on a liner, is worth it, especially since the Symphony is the best. However, if you are chasing records, hurry up. The Oasis family didn't end with this ship, and in a few years we will probably see another ship, which will most likely take away the proud title of the best. Give us a like and subscribe to the channel so we don't miss new interesting videos.